All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Unfortunately, well, my name is Sherri Marine. I'm the president of the IPHA. Just welcoming everybody to this webinar. We're going to be discussing what a board member does with IPHA. Serving on the IPHA board, our goal is not to convince you to apply. Instead, we want to invite you to think about it and get the information you need to decide whether you want to become a board member. The panelists that are here are Jake Riley. Jake and I are here in the Johnson County Public Health Office right now. Unfortunately, we don't have a picture for our computers. So we also got Lena Tucker-Reiners, our executive director, is joining us. She's actually in Philadelphia right now, been attending the APHA conference all week. And then we also have Stacy Van Gorp. Stacy's been helping us on the board to develop our strategic plan the last few years. So she'll be providing much of our content during this session. At this point, I'd like to have the three participants that are here on the phone let us know where you're from and what organization you work for, and then answer this question: What's a question on your mind about being an IPHA board member? And let's start with Anjali.
Oh, thank you, Sherri.
Yeah.
My name is Anjali Deshpande. I'm at the University of Iowa College of Public Health. And I've had the opportunity to be involved with IPHA over the past several years. I currently chair the Education and Programming Subcommittee, and I'm interested, I guess, in what you're looking for as far as representation on the board, and I'm interested in what kind of role IPHA board members play, not only for IPHA, but then with policymakers and other state representatives.
Okay, all right, great, thanks. Virginia, you want to give us just some information?
Yeah, thank you for hosting this call. I really appreciate it. My name is Virginia Barrett, and I am with the American Cancer Society. I'm a health systems manager focusing on primary care and state-based organizations, so I work really closely with our safety net population. I'm not sure if I have any question. My one question would be, I was a former board member of IPHA, and I'm just now kind of getting back to the public health world, so I'm sure things have changed, so I guess that might be my question is, what's changed since my days as a board member and chair of the advocacy committee?
Cool, all right, thank you. And Tammy?
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm an assistant professor at Des Moines University, and I guess I was interested in this webinar just to find out more about what exactly is involved with time commitments for an IPHA board member, and then, of course, as Virginia and Anjali has also said, those issues of just understanding kind of the broader scope of what you're looking for your board members and how to fit in with that better.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. Thanks, you guys, for joining. We're excited to be able to do this. I know as a former prior board member and I had a lot of these questions, and we didn't actually do this when I came on the board, so I'm hoping it gives you a lot of information and a better feel for what's expected. I'm going to turn it over to Stacy, and she'll start us through the agenda.
Sure. So hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Van Gorp. I'm really pleased to work with IPHA, and this is our first time with this webinar. So I'm so glad that you could join us, and we'll be interested in your feedback at the end too. And so we'll try to accommodate the questions you have, and then just answer some basics about board membership at IPHA. So board service basics will be the first topic, legal responsibilities of the board, governance responsibilities of the IPHA board, fundraising responsibilities, strategic responsibilities, and then at the end of the call, Jake and Sherri are going to be sharing some sort of the real story about being a board member, some advice, some insights that they might share. And Virginia, since you've been a board member in the past, we'd certainly welcome that. We'll also have time for Q&A. So let's go ahead and jump in. So I've asked Jake if he would be willing to share a little bit about sort of, especially I think, Tammy, your first question was about time. And so Jake, that we know that's people's, one of their first questions. So Jake's gonna share a little bit about the process.
Okay, so we're following kind of the same process that we've used in the past. And so currently nominations are open, and so people have expressed interest. Some of you are on this webinar, and we've got a few other names as well. And then in December, we're going to share the candidate profiles to all members for people who've firmly expressed interest. We'll share those electronically. And then voting will take place via a SurveyMonkey link in January. And then new members will be seated at the February board meeting. And at that time, we'll have a board orientation and a retreat with other board members. And that board orientation is very helpful, I found anyway, and answers a lot of the questions that may not get covered in this webinar about like bigger picture things, our scope and our responsibility and kind of our goals. So the overall process is pretty simple. As far as kind of commitments and things, it's fairly light until it's not. We have monthly meetings by video conference, and those are 2-hour meetings. And they go pretty quick. But then quarterly, we have face-to-face meetings located in Des Moines, and those are 4 hours long. Otherwise, we're just kind of expected to attend IPHA events when they're in your area, especially, to serve on a committee or serve as a committee liaison. And so that would involve being on those conference calls, helping out with that workload if necessary, and then reporting back to the board. Meeting preparation, if you have things that you're presenting, or just kind of make sure that you're familiar with everything on the agenda prior to the meeting. Since these meetings aren't super long, it is important that they run efficiently. And then assisting with fundraising is a big one. And then things do come up, we get asked to co-host or sponsor or respond to things. So just kind of being able to respond to emails, phone calls, votes in a timely manner outside of these regular meetings. And then it is for 3-year terms and a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. I know I didn't realize that when I applied. I thought it was year by year. So, but it is for 3-year terms, so it is a little bit of a commitment. But I guess I would say so far it's definitely worth it. All right, I've got a couple chats here. So our committees that we look for liaisons to are the Advocacy Committee, the Education Committee, Education and Programming, the Membership, and then the Finance and Communications Committees. And how many spots are we trying to fill? Is it 3 open spots?
Yeah, we have a couple open spots and that are currently empty. And then we have a couple people that will be rerunning as well.
Okay. And then before I turn it back over to Stacy, I do just want to remind everyone that we are recording this, so don't say anything too embarrassing.
I'll try not to. All right, thanks, Jake. And I think I'll ask Lena and Jake and Sherri to be monitoring the chat while I'm going through some other information. So please feel free to put chat messages in there, and to Lena and Jake and Sherri, please feel free to jump in if there's something that's ready to be answered. We just want to start with the legal responsibilities of a board member. So this is when you become a board member for an organization that is a nonprofit recognized by the state and by the federal government, then you automatically are saddled with some legal responsibilities. So we just want to make sure everybody knows about these. And the Des Moines Community Foundation has recently come out with a cute little video that's about 90 seconds about these legal responsibilities. So rather than telling you, we're going to share this video, and hopefully, please put in, please let me know if the volume's a problem.
A nonprofit is only as strong as its governing board leadership. There are 4 basics to being an effective board member. Let's talk about the fiduciary role. By definition, this means that board members act on behalf of the organization in good faith. It's a fancy way of saying you're a board superhero, responsible for protecting the organization's mission and the group it serves. Donors trust you to make sure their gifts are being used to effectively carry out the mission of the organization. Those served by the organization also depend on you. It's your job to make sure the mission meets their needs and maximizes resources. Board members are armed with 3 legal requirements to carry out these duties: care, loyalty, and obedience. Board service is an important job. Handle with care. Be engaged in discussions, ask questions, and seek clarification to make sure the organization is on track. Loyalty means putting the organization's needs first. Don't seek to advance your business, personal agenda, or any other cause. Be upfront with any conflicts of interest you may have. Obedience means making sure the organization is following internal and external rules. Sometimes organizations can suffer from mission creep. Mission creep wants to grow and expand into areas or services that aren't core to the organization's purpose. Board members must be the guardians of the mission. Your superpower is keeping the organization focused on what it is meant to do and those it is intended to serve. Only as strong as its governance.
So these, they have a little series of these videos, and so if you're interested in them, I do think they're nice if you're serving on other boards where people might want some additional information. So just these 3 duties that, you know, when you're a board member, your job is to look out for the organization. That means to make sure the organization has the policies, strategy, and financial wherewithal to fulfill its mission. That your first responsibility is always to the organization, not for self-benefit, and that you're able to be present, for example. So that duty of care is, coming to the meeting, asking hard questions, making sure the organization's doing what it's supposed to do. I won't belabor that, but we just felt like it was an important place to start. In terms of governance responsibilities, this is sort of the typical organizational chart that you would see in a nonprofit. And so it shows, again, that the board is ultimately responsible for the organizations, with committees and the executive director really following through with a lot of the action that happens. IPHA also uses a firm called Diversified Management Services to help with some of its back office, like accounting, bookkeeping, which is a really smart way, I think, for an organization of your size. And then there's some other staff and contractors. So this is how it looks in the nice and tidy version. What's probably more accurate is that nonprofits are really about shared governance. There's a nonprofit consultant that she calls boards and staff each other's co-pilots. And so while Lena is thinking about what needs to get done every single day, you all are thinking about your day jobs every single day. So she's really thinking down here about implementation and goals, and that's really the responsibility of management, where strategy is typically a shared responsibility, and setting the strategic direction of the organization is a board responsibility. So you can see in this that there's always a sharing that's going on, but board members typically aren't expected to fulfill all the day-to-day responsibilities of the organization, although I would say IPHA does have some hands-on activities where they really need your particular help. So you sit sort of in this seat of strategy while pitching in where you're needed. So just sort of an orientation to the way the organization is thinking. And you can see here in the middle, there are lots of ways, lots of tools that make that communication happen and support that partnership. Everything from the executive director evaluation, which is a responsibility of the board, to planning processes and board meetings, of course. So an additional responsibility that we like to make very clear is the responsibility for fundraising. So first, I thought it would be helpful to just tell you a little bit about the fundraising model that IPHA selected during its planning. And this is called the collective interest model. And so this comes from some work done by Stanford Social Innovation Review about the different business models organizations use. They reviewed 10 models and they selected this one. So it's called collective interest. And it means that your donors are typically your members and friends, and that you achieve your revenue goals through membership fees, events, gifts, and direct mail. And so the motivation for donors is that they already understand issues integral to their everyday life and they're drawing collective benefit. So, excuse me, donors typically need opportunities for giving, not to be convinced of the cause. So you're not using, for example, a methodology where you'd be sending a blanket direct mail across the state of Iowa to people who have no connection to public health. Or you're not necessarily trying to throw a gala that draws everybody in town. The model that was selected was one that said there are people who really care about public health in Iowa, and that's, you know, the membership plus sort of friends of the membership, associated industries. And our job as fundraisers and our job to bring in resources is to ask those people who really care to give of their resources in a way that's appropriate and meaningful to them. So when we're talking about fundraising and the responsibility for the board, we're not asking you to go, you know, collect soda cans from all of your neighbors, for example. What we're really asking you to do is to think about how do you engage people who already care about public health in giving more to the mission, whether that's through becoming a member, attending an event, you're providing a stewardship gift. So, sorry, sustaining donor, that's the word we use here at IPHA. So IPHA does have a sustaining donor program, and this is where a lot of the energy has been about fundraising and is working toward. And so sustaining donors are donors that give monthly to IPHA. So we're able as a donor to give a small amount over a longer amount of time and make a big contribution. And we think this is a good strategy for IPHA because about 65% of IPHA's members are agency members, meaning their employer pays their membership dues. So we know there are individuals who benefit from IPHA membership in those organizations, and might they be willing to make a financial contribution. So that's what the strategy is right now. The board does have a fundraising role called Give and Get. This is pretty typical for a lot of nonprofits, which means board members are asked to make a financial contribution that's personally significant. So this isn't a board where we say you have to give X. This is a board where we say make a gift that's personally significant. And then also play a role in asking other people to contribute to the organization. So that could be inviting somebody to be a member, hosting an event, signing a letter, going on appointments, those sorts of things. I want to move on to the strategic responsibilities. IPHA has a new strategic plan a couple years ago, maybe 18 months ago. It's on the website, and the strategic plan is used to make choices about the work of IPHA and to organize and focus the organization and conversations. I'm going to flip over to a different document to show you the strategic plan, I think. And so here's the strategic plan. You can go to the website and find it, mission, vision, and values. And I think the mission is what I'll point out here, uniting and strengthening the voice for public health in Iowa. There are 3 core functions at IPHA. One is to be a strong network. So IPHA's role is to hold all of you together. The other work is advancing public health through education and advocacy. I heard Anjali and Virginia both mention that when they came on the call. And then to serve members. So if members need to learn about jewels or e-cigarettes, that to offer the opportunities for people to learn about that. And you can see we set goals in each of these core areas. I'll ask you to go ahead and look through a lot of these other things on your own, but we did take an approach called Focus the Network, and that meant that IPHA chose not to prioritize several things. So I think that's always interesting as a board to hang on to what you chose to do and not to do. And then finally, that even meant that IPHA sort of made an opportunity matrix as an opportunity comes along, which how might we respond? And so some things we pour in energy, some things we observe and say not at this time. So this would be a grounding document we would go over more during orientation. I'm gonna spring ahead. So a couple of you asked about the skills that the board, the board is looking for just now. And given our strategic plan, some of the skills that the board is hoping to strengthen are around administration and management, just how to continue to grow. There was a lot of sentiment in the planning about growing, financial oversight, experience with diversity, equity, and inclusion, leadership and fund development, marketing, and advocacy leadership. So those are all areas that when we look at the strategic plan, the board certainly has so much experience in public health topics. And so you can see that several of these are about running a successful association. So if you don't have to meet all of these, right? And there are definitely friends of the foundation that help with many of these. So I want to close up by asking Jake. I went through all of that fast, and I'm totally happy to answer more questions, but I want to get to the questions. So I want to ask Jake and Sherri to either field any of the questions that might be coming up in the chat, but also perhaps give some advice about, you know, what they found rewarding or surprising, or what's important for people to know. And Lena, that invitation's open to you, of course. So I'll turn it over for Q&A or A&Q, as the case may be. So go ahead, Sherri or Jake. Are there any questions in the chat?
I do want to welcome Trisha. I see she joined.
Oh, hi, Trisha. If not a question in the chat, Jake or Sherri, would you like to weigh in on some of these advice questions about what have you found rewarding, surprising, or what you want people to know?
Yeah, certainly. So as a new board member, I've definitely learned quite a bit, but what I probably found most rewarding is just being able to work with such a variety of public health professionals and kind of expand my own experience into kind of advocacy. That's not something I do. My nose is usually buried in an investigation or some data. And so it's given me the opportunity to learn a lot and to provide another point of view to the board. And kind of what's been surprising, I would say one of my first meetings, we wrote a policy statement or position paper, and it was referenced at my Board of Health meeting for my local department. And I was like, wow, I helped kind of influence that. And it was pretty cool to realize how much of an impact that we can have as a board member kind of statewide. And so I guess that would also kind of tie into what I think is most important for people to know. This is a great opportunity to expand your skill sets, but it is a great opportunity to have a significant impact on public health in Iowa.
Cool. Thanks, Jake. Sherri, what would you like to share?
Okay, so I'm kind of on the same page as Jake as far as the rewarding piece. One of the best things that I feel has given me is the opportunity to meet so many different versions of public health and the people that are in it, and that it spans the whole state, the whole country, and I probably was not as focused on or aware of all of those additional pieces when I was in my own little world in my job. So, and the relationships that I have developed over the years, there wasn't a 3 or 6 year limit for years on the board. So I've actually been on the board for about 8 or 9 years. So started out when we had regional members of the board, and then gradually moved through the secretary position, and now president. And but it's been very rewarding along the way. Something that would be surprising, actually, I would say that it's not as hard as you think it would be. It's not everyone on the board has a different strength, and if your strength isn't their strength, you learn from it, but it's not, you know, it's kind of scary at first to think about it, but it actually, you know, everyone, we just work through everything and you learn along the way, and it's not that difficult. So, and as far as most important to know, one was, I think we mentioned it in these slides, Jake and I were just talking about that, you know, having the board member giving to, as an expectation as a board member to give to the association, not that you wouldn't have already, but that was not something that I was really aware of. And then the other thing is I've always been here in Coralville, and all of our board meetings are in Des Moines. And I think some people worry that the distance that you're away from the Des Moines area might affect and be a problem, and it's not. I just want people to know that, you know, sometimes we carpool, and if you can't make it for some reason to a board meeting, we'll conference call in. So it's still workable, and if you're all the way across to the east or west side of the state, you can still make it to meetings and or be a part of it. So
thanks, Sherri.
that's it.
Yeah, we're happy to take any additional questions that people might have. We also know we're sort of running right up against time, but I think Jake and Sherri and Lena and I can stay on to take additional questions.
Stacy, I'll just add a little bit and give people time to send comments in if they want to. As the executive director and the only staff member of IPHA, I'm in APHA mode right now. I really value the ability to talk with board members and kind of still have that team feeling when I'm going about the day-to-day business of IPHA. I know I can call up Sherri or Jake or any of the board members anytime and bounce ideas back and forth. And so it's extremely helpful to me in the running of the organization that is, you know, that we all want to be, you know, to run smoothly, to run efficiently, effectively, to have engaged board members who feel like they really are part of a team. So I would just emphasize that this isn't a board, a stamp of approval board. It's a, you know, get your hands in there kind of board.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can we answer more questions for folks?
Hi, so this is Virginia. Just a really quick question. I know I read somewhere that there was a requirement that you be a member of IPHA for a year. Is that, you know, what if I was a member, you know, 6 years ago versus, or does it need to be the last year? How does that work?
That's
that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know, to be honest, I'll have to refer back to the bylaws and see what that says. My intuition right now is saying that it's a consecutive year, but that's something you have to look at. Sherri, as president, you might have thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could see it both ways. So I definitely, because I don't want to limit our, you know, but we have said it has to. I think it does say you have to be a member for a year. But, you know, there's always the opportunities other than the board, a good opportunity, even if for others that may not be interested in the board right now, but down the road. We have a number of committees, and we have a number of anytime need help on committees. We've got some new committees that are needing some additional help, like the marketing and communications committee. And so that's another opportunity for the next year to get involved as well. So.
And if you remember back to the original slide where we talked about the board terms, and Jake mentioned that they're 3-year terms that rotate, the board structure and the board 10-year plan is such that there's elections every year. And so we have, I think 1 to 2 people rotating off every year by design, so that every year there's opportunities for new people to come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else can we answer for folks?
So, hi, this is Anjali. just a question about nominations and so on. Is this something that we reach out to you? Is it something that we can apply for on the IPHA website? And then do you solicit the profiles, or how does that sort of process work to put the information out there?
I can answer that. We do say it's a nomination, but obviously you can self-nominate. I don't know that you can put somebody else's application in there for them. You can volunteer somebody. But the application is via a Google form that's on the website. So if you go to, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I think it's IPHA.org, and then it's in the members only section because you have to be a member. And so you have to log in with your member information, and then I believe there's a pull down menu that says IPHA Board of Director Elections or something like that. And the information is there. We'll put a link to this webinar there, and the Google form to apply is there.
Great.
Yeah, I think I can put the link here on the screen. There we go. I don't know if you can see it, but hopefully. Anything else that we can answer for you?
I think so. That was great.
Yeah, could you give us some feedback? Like, does this feel like the kinds of topics that you wanted to hear covered today? Was there anything that we could have skipped or gone too long on? This is the first time we've done it. We'd really appreciate any feedback you have for us.
This was the first time that I saw that this was available, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I'll get some good general information. So I was surprised to hear it's the first time you've done it, but I think that it's worthwhile, and then having it up, you know, for people to be able to view on the website makes sense.
Thank you.
And I will add one more thing too, to the kind of who's eligible to be a board member. Our only restriction, our only eligibility criteria is that 1 year of membership before running for a board position. And so that means it's any category of IPHA member. And so it can, we have agency members, we have retirees, we have individual members, and we have students. And any member, regardless of membership category, is eligible to run.
Any other
and
questions?
I would add,
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Sherri.
I'd add to that I think having the diversity of different types of members on the board or professions or whatever really helps give the board a lot of, I don't know, plus, I guess, I can't think of the word I want, but it really has been nice. So.
Anybody else, feedback or questions? Okay, well, I'm sure that Jake or Sherri or Lena would be happy to answer more questions offline. I would be too, if they're sort of about how boards work. I'm always happy to do that, and Lena can help you get in touch with me. Otherwise, we're just grateful for your time and attention today and for your interest in the IPHA board. It's such an important responsibility for IPHA, and I think the IPHA board right now is very strong. And so I'm glad to hear of other people who have an interest in it and helping that keep going, moving that momentum along. So thank you to everybody. And Sherri, do you have anything else to offer in closing?
Mainly just thanks for joining us. I look forward to seeing you guys in whatever realm you want to help with IPHA, and in the future, whether it's a board member, a committee member, or just a member in general, giving out the plus for public health. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
See you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.